There's a witch in the Bible who successfully summoned a dead prophet from the underworld. But in Hebrew, she's called a ghost mistress, Ba'alat Ov. And the word for ghost, Ov, literally refers to a ritual pit, a hole in the earth used to drag spirits out of the underworld. She pulls Samuel out of that pit, screams like something went wrong, and calls Samuel a god, an Elohim, rising out of the dirt. So why is a dead man called a god, and what is a ghost mistress? This is how people 3,000 years ago saw the cosmos. Ancient Israelites pictured the universe in 3 tiers: the heavens above, the earth in the middle, and Sheol, the realm of the dead, deep underneath. If someone like Saul wanted to contact the dead, they went to a witch, a medium. But there are 2 different theories on how contacting the dead actually worked, exactly what this witch did. You can translate the word for witch or medium 2 different ways. Ba'alat Ov, her job title, could be translated as ghost wife or ghost mistress, or mistress of the pit. They're 2 different things. In the ghost mistress theory, the witch wasn't actually married to a ghost. That would be a couples therapy nightmare.
Sometimes I just feel like he's not really present.
Instead, it meant that she had a working relationship with a low-level spirit called a familiar spirit. It was kind of like a carrier pigeon of the underworld. Or maybe a pet ghost dog. The ghost mistress sends Sparky here down into the underworld to find Samuel. But he doesn't bring Samuel back, he just talks to him and brings Samuel's message back. Sparky relays the message back to the witch by making weird mutterings and chirping sounds, and then the witch translates the message. She never actually made direct contact with the dead herself, at least in this view. Sparky's a middleman. So a big key to understanding the story is this: the witch did not expect to see anything. More on how that explains the story in a minute. The ghost mistress theory is based on a study of the Hebrew language, and you'll see it in a lot of study Bibles today. But sometimes the meaning of words change over time, and some scholars now think that the ghost wife theory is not the ancient conception, that that's not what Ba'alat Ov, her job description, actually meant. It's kind of like how if I say mouse, some of you picture an animal, and some of you picture a computer controller. There is an older explanation for what Ba'alat Ov can mean, and it's this: mistress of the pit. The witch would contact the dead herself through a big hole in the ground, a ritual pit.
Arise from the dark earth.
Here we have the witch on the physical plane. Since they conceptualize the dead as being in the belly of the earth, she would speak or mutter into the pit to the spirits in the underworld. But what spoke back? The voice that came back from the spirits wasn't thought to sound normal. There are actually 2 passages in Isaiah that describe how this worked and what the voice sounded like. Isaiah 29:4, which says, "From the earth you shall speak, and from the dust your speech will be bowed down. Your voice shall come from the ground like the voice of a ghost, and from the dust your speech shall whisper." It's a description of the voice rising up out of the pit. But Isaiah 8:19 tells us what it sounded like. "Inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter." It's rather mysterious, but some scholars think this description of the sound is created by the acoustics of the voice bouncing around the pit walls as it floats to the surface or into the underworld in some cases. But it was muted, kind of like a tin-can telephone in an echo chamber. I'm actually a huge audio nerd, so we can actually conduct a little experiment and try to replicate maybe what these chirps and mutterings described in Isaiah might have sounded like, so we can kind of hear what maybe the Witch of Endor would have actually heard, if she heard anything. The first thing I had to do was build a tin can telephone. We can put one end of the tin can telephone on a microphone and run it through some sound effects. First, we're going to turn on some reverb to simulate maybe the sound of a big cavern. This effect is going to add like a little bit of an octave to make those chirp sounds, whatever that is. And then we need something to simulate the sound bouncing around the cavern as it exits the tunnel to the surface of the earth. So we're going to turn on this processor, which is going to add some motion to the sound. Yeah, did the witch actually hear chirps and mutterings from the underworld? I don't know. But if she did, they might sound something kind of like this.
Hello? Samuel? Hello? I'm just saying hello. I don't want to see any ghosts.
Then the witch had to interpret these chirps and mutterings. So how in the world did she do that? I don't know. It's not like Google Translate has an Underworld setting. Well, that's disappointing. So was the witch Saul visited a ghost wife or a mistress of the pit? To me, the pit explanation best fits with Isaiah, and it's the oldest meaning of the witch's job description in Hebrew. As much as I like Sparky and the term ghost wife, I gotta go with mistress of the pit. Again, she didn't expect to see anything when she talked to Samuel. She expected to hear something, his mutterings and chirpings rising up out of the ground. But the last thing she expected was for this to happen. A lot of people think the witch was a fraud, and that's why she screamed. They think she just took people's money, said some fake magic words, but at the end of the day, she was just a scammer. Now we know maybe she wasn't a fraud. She just didn't expect a spirit to cross the boundary from the underworld into our world. But there's another stunner hidden in the Hebrew. When the witch told Saul what she saw, she said she saw Elohim, plural. That word means God, but the plural form means she saw gods. So what in the world did she see? Most of the time, this word Elohim does refer to God in the Bible, but it's not actually a name. It means spirit. It's any being that lives in the spiritual realm. God is an Elohim, angels are Elohim, and a dead human residing in the underworld is an Elohim. The story's not saying Samuel was a god or equal to God. It just means that he doesn't live in the physical world anymore. He's on the other side. But the use of the plural form means somebody else was there. She saw something besides just Samuel.
Where are we?
Someone summoned us.
Some English Bibles made it singular or changed it to ghostly figure. But in Hebrew it says, I saw gods. Contacting any spirit other than God himself was strictly forbidden. So maybe this passage is a clue to why. My late professor Michael Heiser always believed that the reason contacting the dead is forbidden in the Bible is because it's dangerous, not because spirits aren't real. It's like making a phone call to a person, but not knowing if it's really them on the other end. Kind of like a scammer using an AI voice changer. Well, here, the witch called Samuel, but more than just Samuel picked up. So who were the others? We seriously have no clue. The only clue is that Elohim is plural. All we know is that she saw more than just Samuel, but Saul couldn't see any of them.
I can't see anything. What do you see?
Your senses have been dulled.
We're left wondering why. Some people see this as proof that she's just taking people's money and making up what she sees. But I'm going to suggest two other possibilities. One, he can't see down into the pit. I mean, seriously, would you want to stand next to the entrance to the Underworld? So maybe he's just not standing near the pit. But the other explanation? There's a clue at the very beginning of this story. Before Saul went to the witch, he was staring down a massive enemy army. The Philistines stood outside the city gates waiting to attack.
Why won't you answer me? I know you see what's happening. Are you going to just let me die?
Back then, people believed the outcome of wars were determined by the gods. So Saul was begging God to save him from the Philistines. But when he prays, God gave him the silent treatment. He's spiritually blinded. The impression is that as Saul made himself more and more of a villain, God dulled his spiritual sense more and more until he was alone. So Saul tracked down the witch.
If you won't answer me, I'll find someone who will. I need you to contact someone.
Saul could have me killed for this.
The life of every person in this city is at stake.
She pulls Samuel out of the pit.
Come forth.
The witch instantly realizes, I didn't do this. I am looking at a true act of God.
Why did you lie to me?
Calm down. I won't hurt you.
She realizes her disguised client was Saul. Now, summoning the dead was illegal, so she realizes that her life is now on the line. But Saul has bigger problems.
Why did you disturb me? Please. I'm about to lose this war. God won't answer me. Please tell me what I need to do. Why do you ask me? You made yourself an enemy of God. You slaughtered that whole village. I can't help you. By this time tomorrow, you'll be dead. God is giving the crown to David.
Come with me.
But the witch does the most unexpected thing. The stunner of this story is the most Jesus-like person is the witch. Saul could have her killed, but once Samuel gives him the death sentence, she cooks him a nice final meal.
I should have known.
I was at my brewery discussion group talking about this passage with some friends, and one guy wondered if we're supposed to see this story as the witch's conversion story. It is really interesting that the Bible presents the witch in a positive light at the end, and I absolutely love it when the Bible subverts expectations. It's not endorsing necromancy here, that part is certain, but it might be emphasizing that witnessing God bringing Samuel back had an impact on her. One girl told me that sometimes she worries she'll end up like Saul, that God might not answer her prayers because she's made too many mistakes in the past. And I think if you're wondering this, you're probably not like Saul at all. This is a guy who used God. 6 chapters earlier in the Bible, he slaughtered 85 priests and their entire families. Like, he actively fought God and went against what he was trying to do. So it doesn't seem like he ever really changed. This girl seemed like she was genuinely trying to connect with God. Like she wanted a relationship with him. And that's not like Saul at all. So if you're worried that you're being like Saul, you're probably not anything like him. 24 hours later, Saul met his fate at the hands of the Philistines. Not because he went to see the witch, but because he had aligned himself against God, when all God really wants is to build a human family. So Saul went to the underworld, in the belly of the earth. We've made a detective-style Bible study module for this story that you can use for free on our website. Take notes, uncover historical evidence and context, and then record your conclusions. We use these modules with a discussion group, so try it by yourself or with some friends. It's a beta version, so let us know if you run into any bugs and any features you'd like to see in the future. Did you know there's also a prison for angels in the Underworld? Yeah. Watch this video next to find out what it is and what they did to get there.